I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I think we have some news. The Pittsburgh Steelers have called reportedly for Kyle Pitts, who could be an option, who could definitely be an option. Your thoughts on that?
Now there's your big home run, for a quote unquote number 2 receiving option or something like that. I know is a tight end, but here's the thing. You mentioned boring in there, and I think you kind of meant it critically, if I could assume your intention there. But I think boring at the number 2 wide receiver spot is going to be what works best for the Steelers this year. I think if the goal is to just get the most talented number 2 wide receiver, Alan Lazard obviously is not the choice. You have to put all your eggs in the basket of a Chris Olave or something like that. But I think they need the safer, boring option at the number 2 wide receiver so that Calvin Austin can flourish a little bit, so that Pat Freiermuth can flourish a little bit, so that DK Metcalf can eat every single week. And I think if they are splitting targets like that, I think we're setting up another sort of recipe for disaster where the passing attack doesn't feature the superstar wide receiver enough, and we're in the same situation of 2024 all over again of how do we incorporate this incredibly talented top wide receiver into the offense more? So I think, if we go the safe option at wide receiver, maybe bring in the Alan Lazard, it could set up, a potential for Kyle Pitts. That would be a dream home run swing for the Steelers to bring him in and match him up with Pat Freiermuth. I mean, it's a pretty deadly tight end combination. So yeah, I mean, you got to make the calls, or maybe there's just a lot of agent moves happening where people are putting out how many calls are coming out of certain people, like the Jonnu Smith stuff. But you got to make the calls. I would give up a good bit for Kyle Pitts. I don't know about you, but I would be ready to give up a good bit for him.
What's a good bit? Give me a draft pick.
I mean, second rounder easily. I think I could be
really.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Okay,
100%. I think if your goal is to win a Super Bowl and you think someone like a Kyle Pitts who has unreal athleticism can play anywhere on the line, you can shift him out wide, you can bring him in tight. Doesn't really matter. He would be sort of a Arthur Smith's dream, alongside Freiermuth. So I think if you're getting that player that you feel is the ideal complement to your quarterback and offensive system.
Summer is here. More sun, more light, more time to do all the things that make summer so special. And the number one thing you don't want to be doing all summer, spending hours cooking inside. That's where Factor comes in. Factor's chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals are ready in just 2 minutes, taking the hassle out of eating well. Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat, perfect for any active lifestyle over summer and beyond. With 45 weekly menu options, you can pick gourmet meals that fit your summer gains and goals. Choose from options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and more. Factor powers your day sun up to sundown. With nutritious breakfast, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks and desserts, Factor has your whole day covered. Enjoy more this summer. Get Factor if you want all the flavor and none of the fuss. I'm a big snack guy right now. My diet currently is acai bowls, Factor snacks, Factor juices, whatever my wife's making for dinner. And I'm not going to lie to you, it is a great plan to be on. Get started at factormeals.com/allsteelerstalk50 off and use code allsteelerstalk50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code allsteelerstalk50 off at factormeals.com/allsteelerstalk50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. Factormeals.com/allsteelerstalk50 off.
You want to win a championship, you got to give up. You got to spend, to get big, I guess, in this situation. So I think you'd have to be ready to part with some serious assets. So second round pick, I'd be okay with.
Okay. I don't know if I'd be in a second round pick. I like your notion though. I agree with, I'd be all in on a Kyle Pitts. I think that makes a lot of sense. I have heard, look at the first thing I was told and I said it on the show about a week ago. You were, sipping wine somewhere.
Cruising the seas.
Yeah, you were having a great time somewhere. And when the Jonnu Smith came out, the first thing I was told was there's a more than likely chance that if they were going to get a tight end, it'd be Kyle Pitts over Jonnu Smith, because it just makes more sense. And I agree with it. It does make more sense. Kyle Pitts isn't going to be expensive. I mean, he's expensive this year, but I don't think long term he's going to be that expensive. He comes to an offense where he's the tight end too, and the Steelers want tight ends. So I agree with that. I don't know if I'd give up a second round pick. I think I'd give up a third round pick and consider it for Kyle Pitts if the right move was there, if you were confident in your offense to use 3 tight ends that consistently. I mean, the injury that he's dealing with right now plays a little bit of a role in that, but I think it works in the Steelers' favor, to be honest, where it's like, yeah, well, he's not 100% healthy, so maybe we get a little bit of a discount.
What
He's got some.
What is the injury right now?
It's some foot thing, I'm pretty sure. It's a foot or a hand. It's one of the body parts that you use to walk or feel things, definitely.
And that was sustained like immediately in mini camp or something like that, I'm assuming.
I think he came into OTAs with it. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Not 100% on that one. I haven't been paying attention to the Falcons too much, but he is dealing with something. I think that's going to work in their favor. I'm about Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts is fine. I'll say this though, in the same conversation, the Steelers, while targeting tight ends or looking at tight ends, I don't want to say targeting, but looking at tight ends, they're not going after a tight end to not go after a wide receiver. I expect both things to be filled. Like the Steelers have their eyes on a wide receiver and a tight end. And if they're comfortable with Kyle Pitts, I mean, that's what they're doing, is they're essentially saying, okay, let's just get as many pieces as possible in case Darnell Washington isn't a good tight end too. In case Connor Hayward isn't the guy we need him to be and needs to play fullback. You know, let's go get somebody in case this is a tight end heavy offense, which is what Arthur Smith wants to make it. So I agree with that. I'm all on board with it. I don't think it rules out a wide receiver, and I wouldn't be surprised if they made 2 trades. Now, again, none of this can happen right now with their cap space, but I do expect, you know, when TJ gets signed, that's going to free up a lot of money. And they have other ways to free up some money, not a ton, but, you know, I do think that the upside's there. And the Steelers, I mean, Rappaport said it the other day, and I went off a little bit he said the Steelers are loading up for one last run. And I said, the Steelers, this isn't one last run, but they sure as hell are putting all their eggs in a basket to say, let's see how good this team could be in 2025. You know, we're not wasting any more time. And I don't mind that. I don't mind that idea.